Morning.
A few minutes late this morning, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll be back in James this morning in chapter 5. We'll give you a minute to turn there and follow along with me. Another beautiful morning the Lord gave us. Of course, it's always a beautiful morning when you come to His house and be in His presence. We should be happy and excited about being able to come to His house. David talks about he was excited, when they said, let us go into the house of the Lord and worship. He was excited. He danced and played instruments, sang songs, and had joy. We should have the same. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. James chapter 5, verse 1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. He's talking here, not that doesn't mean that every rich person is evil or corrupt, but the ones that have put their trust and their faith in their money and their riches and the power that they've accumulated, and they think that that's going to save them, and that's where their safety is, that's where their future is. It's in money, things they've built, power, companies, and houses, land, whatever it is they've accumulated, and they're putting their faith in that, and trusted in that to carry them through, and so that's evil, and it's corrupt, and of course, we know, all earthly things will eventually fade away. They'll give up, they'll rust, they'll wear out. If they last till the end days, fire will melt it all, burn heat. And, nothing will be here that's a physical thing left. So, anybody that's putting their faith in anything other than God is in vain and will eventually fail them. Going on verse 4. Behold the hire of the laborers who have reaped down the fields, which of you kept back by fraud, cries, and the cries of them that have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. And saying, if they've lied, they've cheated, they've robbed people to get where they are, then they're condemned in themselves with their actions they've done, and they've been evil, and they've sowed evil, and they'll reap evil upon themselves. And restitution comes, and God will have His day, and everyone will face Him, and anything that they've not repented of, they will be found guilty of. 5. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and He doth not resist you. It goes on talking about how in the evil in this world, will get corrupt people, and they'll take pleasure in the things of this earth, and they'll be found wanting, because there's nothing earthly, nothing physical that's going to satisfy, your soul and make you happy. It can all be temporary, but all that passes, and and the greed will grow in your heart, and what you once had won't be enough, and you'll want more and more, and you'll lie and cheat and steal and do anything to get more, to keep what you have, and it'll lead you astray. And says you nourish your hearts as the day of slaughter. They took pride in what they've done, and had faith in all these things they've accumulated. And I said, but they've lied and killed and stolen to get all these things. And I said that it's corrupted their hearts, and they're evil, and they don't even see it. They've been blinded to it. And it says, you've been condemned and killed, and you've killed the just, and He does not resist you. It doesn't. I'm sure that they were actually physically killing some people, but it also means they destroyed other people. Their livelihoods taken from them, took their livelihoods away. The good people didn't resist them. They just carried on and did the best they could, and didn't really fight back against these people, and they had their way with them, and it's just a pure evil. And James is warning us here about that. That taking advantage of others. For your own personal gain, that's just a pure evil thing. That's what the enemy does, and that's how Satan does. He has an objective, and he takes advantage of us by, attacking our weaknesses to try to distract us and steal us, away from God. And, it's an example here that he's given. A physical example of earthly people here, but there's a spiritual connection to that too. How the devil will lie and steal and cheat and fraud you and tempt you where you're weak to lead you away. And, there's a lot of people out there asleep and they're not resisting, and that's a scary thought, because as we study and we read more and more in our Bible, we look at the news, the words on these pages are coming right off the page into real life. This world is fulfilling the words of God right now. The Bible is being fulfilled right before our very eyes. And that points to us being, if we're not the last, we're out on the doorstep. It'll probably be our children. I'm not going to tell you when it is because I don't know, but we know the season and it's upon us. It's very, very short. And if nothing else, we're 2,000 years closer than we were when James wrote this, And so I feel like we're on the doorstep. We have to be ready. We have to resist the enemy and the evil, and we have to, purge ourselves of all these evil things and lust and desires of the flesh, and seek spiritual things and godly, wholesome things, pure things, and this is something we have to do. And now is not the time to be playing around at all. Verse 7, be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. So, we see all this evil going around, and we can't help but say, God, why? Why is this all still going on? It's His word being fulfilled. People have rebelled, and good people have went to sleep, and they let their guard down, and the enemy's been fighting and taking inch by inch, and now we woke up, 2,000 years later, and we gave up this inch here, this inch there. Well, over 2,000 years, they've got miles and miles on us, and this world's corrupt and it's evil, and we have to, keep fighting the good fight and be patient on waiting for the Lord, because He has a perfect time. He's waiting. We're waiting for that early and latter rain to come in, and the fact that He's not come back means that there's still work to be done. There's still people that can be won, and that He's seeking to find. We may get weary, we may get tired, but we have to keep patient and keep faithful and keep holding on and say, Lord, I know there's something else I need to do. Show me what it is. Use me. And we have to be willing to do that. And sometimes it's going to be hard things to do. He never promised it was going to be easy. Jesus Christ is our example, and there's nothing in His life that He lived here that was easy. And so we shouldn't expect it to be either. But He's not going to put anything on us that He's not prepared us for. And so as long as we're seeking Him and following His direction, His instructions, He'll see us through it. And we might not see the results immediately in front of us, but He has that in His hands. We just have to do the work, be obedient, and follow what He has for us to do. That we're looking for that latter rain to come, and that harvest to grow, and we can have that, great revival, and turn back to Him before He comes. And, if we're out there working for that, and be faithful to it and be patient, it's going to come. 8, be ye also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. So, we have to be patient with ourselves too, and we have to establish our hearts. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're seeking Him. We're reading His Word, we're praying, we're asking Him, God, is there something I'm missing? Show me where I'm lacking, where I failed You, or where I can do a little better. We can't trust our own understanding. We can't trust our own heart. We have to turn it over to Him and let Him mold us and shape us and make us who, He wants us to be. He's making us in the image of His Son. He's forming us. He wants to make us more like Jesus Christ. And if we resist, then we can't do that. If we're obedient, we submit and, give in and say, yes, Lord, I'm worried about that. I'm scared about that, but I trust You. I'm going to step out in faith and, you know, I know He'll take care of me and believe, then it will be okay. But, you know, we got to make sure we're close to Him. And like you said, the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. This was 2,000 years ago, so we're 2,000 years closer. You know, I mean, it could be any moment. You know, and if we're not looking for that, we're not ready. You know, if you're not waking up in the morning thinking, you know, the trumpet could sound any minute, and you're not believing that and living that, you're in danger. You know, because if you know, He says we don't want to be found sleeping when He comes. We got to be working and looking. You know, and that we need to contradict that fear and doubt that the world's trying to give us, and have faith and hope and peace in that we know He is coming. You know, and we need to work and try to convert as many as we can before it happens. Verse 9. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. So, again, He's telling us we need to try to make peace with everybody that we can. And that's not going to be easy to do all the time. You know, there's people that are out there that are, you know, I know people, you know, sometimes it's your workplace, maybe sometimes it's your family, sometimes it's the people in your circle that, you know, not real close to you, but they'll start an argument and fight with you just to be fighting with you. And they'll tell you that. It's like, well, I'm just going to start this with you because I want to stir something up. Some people are bold enough to tell you that. And, you know, if our hearts are right, and I'm not telling you this, I'm teaching to Daniel as much as anybody here this morning. And, you know, it's hard to do that sometimes. When somebody knows what buttons to push, because they know you, and they push those buttons and tell you, I'm pushing your buttons, you got to look at them and love them. And it's hard to do. But you know what? Our example was Jesus. You know, and they tried everything in the world to get Him to turn away, to get angry, to mess up, make some kind of mistake, sin, and He never did. And so we got to do a lot of praying. We got to do a lot of studying. We got to learn to do a lot of loving. You know, and I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. You know, I'd love to tell you that, oh, I've got this whooped and I've got it down, and I can, you know, I can say with a clear conscience I've always done that, and I'd be lying. But I'm trying, and that's what God wants you to do. He wants you to try. You know, if you're giving your best effort, you know, that's what grace is for. But are you giving it everything you've got? That's the trick. If you're doing everything you can, then you'll grow in that grace and knowledge and wisdom. You'll grow in love and patience and kindness and meekness and, you know, all the fruits of the Spirit. You know, if you're working and you're trying to cultivate that in you, then, you know, He'll increase in you. You know, you push yourself down, you crucify your flesh, then the Spirit can grow. And that's what He's asking us to do, of each and every one. You know, I don't think that I can get close enough to Him. You know, as close as I can get is not close enough. And we have to have that desire. You know, the back half of verse 9 there, behold, the judge stands before the door. You know, that's a warning to us. You know, we don't know when we're going to be set before judgment. You know, we don't know when our life is going to end. We don't know when Jesus is coming back. So we have to be ready, and we have to be prepared. You know, it talks about not letting the sun go down on your wrath. You know, so anything that you can take care of, make sure you take care of it as soon as you can, because you never know. You don't have the next breath. It's not promised to you. If you're committed to Him, you do have that promise that He'll be with you. Verse 10, take my brethren, the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Lord, for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. You know, we have the history of those people that have been in the Bible, and the struggles they went through, the prophets, the fathers of faith, and everybody there, and the things they went through. We have, you know, Jesus Christ's affliction, His suffering, and how He handled that, and patience, everything He went through. And, you know, we have to take those as an example. We have to look to the Lord and say, hey, make me stronger. Make me, you know, more humble. Make me more loving. Make me more forgiving. You know, help me through this, because He's not going to turn you loose and just, you know, throw you out. He's going to be there with you and provide if you're truly seeking Him with all that you are and all that you have in you. Verse 11, behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. You know, Job probably suffered as much as anybody except for Jesus Christ in his life. And we have the stories there of the trials and tribulations he went through, how his friends turned on him. His wife even told him just curse God and die and give up. And his faith carried him through. He wouldn't give up. He kept clinging to the Lord. And he said, God will be my judge. He knows my heart. And, if I've sinned against him, I've tried to make it right, and he'll take care of me in the end. And he did. He rewarded Job with twice as much as what he had before. Because he endured and he had patience and he kept to the Lord. And God is He does take pity on us, and He has tender mercy upon us when we're His and we're obedient and we seek Him with all that we have. Verse 12. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay, lest you fall into condemnation. So we're saying here, we don't need to make oaths and promises to people that we know that we can't keep for sure. And we don't need to do anything that can be used to defile the church or heaven or God. If we swear by heaven or we swear by God or however it is, and then the enemy messes something up, and then we made a fool out of ourselves, and we've put a black mark on the church or God or your witness even. So we don't need to be doing anything like that. I've got a verse here that goes along with that back in Matthew 5:33-37. It says, Again, ye have heard that it hath been said of them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oath. If you're going to make promises, make them to God, and you make sure you keep them. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is His footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by the head, because thou canst make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. So again, we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we make a promise we can't keep, and then we ruin our witness, we ruin somebody's trust, or we lie to them. We brought condemnation on ourselves because we made a promise that we didn't follow through and keep. So it's better to just say, yeah, I'll try my best to do this, or no, I can't do that, and leave it at that. We make our promises, we make them to God, and we keep them by obedience and seeking Him, getting closer to Him. Verse 13. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any married? Let him sing psalms. So, if we have afflicted people, they need to pray, we need to pray for them. If we're happy, we should sing, we should tell people. Ephesians 5:19-20, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, giving thanks always for the things unto God and the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. There's going to be hard times come, but if we have that peace and joy in our hearts, we can still sing and we can praise Him. And if we praise Him in the hard times, people are going to see that. That's going to be a witness for us. The people say, well, you're going through all this, and you're suffering, this happened to you. Maybe you lost your job, maybe you're sick, or your kids are sick, or something happens, the terrible things in life happen, and if you're still happy, there's still something about you. What is it that you have? It's like, it's God. I've got peace in Him, that He's going to see me through, and that, whatever these terrible things are, these afflictions, He'll see me through them because I'm His, and He told me He would never leave me or forsake me. I accepted, I repented of my sins, and I accepted His Son Jesus Christ, that precious blood, and I've been washed clean. My name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life in heaven, and I have a future. I have hope. You know, at the end of this life, when this body dies, my soul will go back to God. And I say, I have a joy and peace in that. You know, and all this suffering here, you know, it's going to end one day. You know, because I have hope in Jesus Christ, and I have hope in the Holy Ghost, and the Father that's in heaven, you know. And you know, we should be able to tell people that even in the hard times. And is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But, you know, if we seek Him with all we have, that joy is going to rise up in us, you know, because He's going to give us peace. He's going to give us that peace that passes all understanding. And, you know, He is going to be there, and He will honor His word. Verse 14, is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. You know, there's some churches that don't believe in that, and they don't do that. And there may be some people think that we're funny because we do that, but it's right here. You know, it's right here in the Bible, and it's a promise that He gave us. And you know, if we pray, believing, and we believe in Him, and that His word is true, and that He cannot lie, and we follow His word, and we band together in one mind and one accord, and we lay hands on, and we want people with oil, and we believe that the miracles can happen, they can happen. They still do. You know, we can look back in our lives and see times when there was, of this world, there was no hope, you know. And through Him, He opened a door that didn't exist. We couldn't see it. You know, but there's spiritual doors, there's spiritual moves and miracles that still happen. You know, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. All the stuff He did in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and you know, the Spirit moving through the prophets, and you know, when Jesus was here, the miracles He did, and you know, after the day of Pentecost, when the Spirit was poured out on the disciples and the miracles they did, we still have that option on the table. If we can live close enough, and we seek Him, and we obey Him enough, and we empty enough of ourselves out, and He fills us up enough in Him, He can still move through us in those days. And this is the truth, and it's promises. You know, we have to believe that this word is the truth. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. The prayer of faith. So faith. So that means that what you're saying, you believe down in your heart. It's not just in your head, that it's in your heart. It's got down past that clavicle bone, as we like to say, and got down inside of you and in your heart, and you truly believe, and there's no doubt, and there's no second guessing it, and you believe truly, you know, and you seek His will. He can do anything, you know. We hold Him back sometimes because of our doubt and fears, and we ask amiss because, you know, we don't really truly believe, you know, and that's really, you know, when we let this world creep back in, that's how we get separated from Him, and how He can't move fully through us like He wants to do, and do all the things, you know, with us, and move in our lives. I got a verse here, Romans 10:10. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. So, you know, with whatever belief in your heart is what you're going to think is true. You know, so you can just say words and not mean them, and it's not going to happen. But if you believe truly with your heart, you know, then that's going to account you, when you believe in Jesus Christ, it's going to account you for righteousness because of His. But it also says, with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. You know, so whatever the abundance of your heart is will pour out of your mouth. You know, and if your heart is true and pure, and what you say out of your mouth is a true confession, and you can be saved, you can be made righteous, and you can be healed, you can help other people, and you can lead them to Jesus Christ, and He can save them. You have to believe in that. 16. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Now, of course, there's things that you don't want to talk about with every single person you know. You have to have confidence in somebody to be able to confess these faults and things. But I do think it's good that you do have an accountability partner when you're struggling with something, and someone you can go to, a brother or sister that's close to you, that you know you've been through some things with before. Maybe you know that they've struggled with the same problem you're having, and you know God's delivered them. You know, talk to them about that, pray for each other, and help each other, support each other, check on each other, tell them you love them, and tell them God moved in your life in this situation, they can move in theirs, and support each other. And I absolutely believe in that. Of course, you don't want to probably go confess your fault to the town gossip, because then you probably be hurting yourself more there. But use wisdom with that. But there are people you should be able to confident and trust. People you know are praying, and that they're going to pray for you instead of talk about you. And go to your brothers and sisters. We should support each other. And then if someone does confident in you, to make sure you seal that up and keep that between you, them, and Jesus. Because God already knows anyways. He knows everything about us. But that confession is good for our own souls, because we have to admit, and humble ourselves down to Him. That's what confession is really about. You don't have to go tell God what you did like He don't know. He already knew. But, the confession is for us, so that we can say, Father, I am your child. I made a mistake. I messed up. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Help me through this. That's why it's good for your soul to do that. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. That effectual, fervent prayer, that's not just whispering in the wind. It's not taking 5 minutes to say, hey, all this and this, and oh yeah, by the way, God, this and this. When you actually mean something and you get down to business and you pour your heart and soul out to God, there's some tears, there may be some snot, there may be some crying, and maybe some mumbling and grunting of your soul. When you're actually empty out your true heart to Him, that's going to be effectual and fervent, and you keep on to it. And it's not just a passing thing, and you seek something, and you pray all night, you pray all day. It's constantly on your mind, and you're working with Him. And, you're living as close as you can. And when He suggests you to do something, hey, I need you to do this, and you do it. He says, I don't need you to do that, cut that out. You cut that out, and you live as close as you can. He's going to hear you. And you're going to be able to ring those prayer bells in heaven and get something through. And, make a move, for somebody else, for you, to get His attention, to get God stirring on something. If you're living as close as you can, you're obedient, and He's pleased with you, and you pray with your true heart, you can reach somebody, you can reach God, you can get through. That's what He's saying here, and that's something we should all strive for and do more of. I could do more of that myself. It's never not a good time to pray. Verse 17, Elias, it's just another name for Elijah, was a man subject to like passions as we are. He's basically saying he was flesh and blood, he was a man. And he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth for the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Now this is just showing an example here. A man that's fully sold out to God. He's, not looking back, not second guessing anything. And, Elijah did a lot of great things, and God moved through him greatly because he poured himself out completely and gave himself fully to God. And God used him mightily, and when Elijah spoke, God was right there with him, and he listened and he heard it, but that's because Elijah, when God spoke to him, he was there and listened to him and moved when He told him to. He had a good, strong relationship with God, and God used him mightily. He could do the same thing with us. If I think back and I'm like, well, I've never done anything like that, or I've not been able to. Well, that's shame on me because I've not been close enough to do that. I've not been prepared and ready to be used. That's on me, and that's something that I could work on myself. I know. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. So, if we see a brother, a sister, or even if it's a lost person, and we see them in error, we see them in sin, and we can go to them and talk to them and give them the truth, and then convert them, we've done a great thing, and really, and other than obedience to God and living fully for Him, that would be the next step. The second biggest thing we should be doing. Out there telling people the truth, trying to convert them. I seen a thing on Facebook. It said, God pulled you out of the mess you were in, so you could go back and pull somebody else out. And this is where I think a lot of us kind of come up and fall short sometimes. We get out of what we're in, and we start doing a little bit better, and then we get a little bit of pride growing in ourselves, maybe. And this is me too. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to teach you all and don't think that I think I'm better than you all, because a lot of these lessons I'm teaching, I learned the hard way before I taught them to you. And I've got some situations, in the past where, I was thinking, well, I can't go talk to them anymore because they're doing all the stuff I got out of. I can't go back there, or I'm going to be felt a little better than them. Maybe sometimes these lessons like this step on your toes a little bit, and but that's good if it just steps on your toes, because God took me out behind the woodshed a couple times spiritually and had to straighten me out. So if it just steps on your toes, God bless you. I'm glad you're living closer than I was, because He takes me out of the woodshed, behind the woodshed every now and then, and I come back with a different attitude. It gives me an attitude adjustment. And so I don't want you all to think that I think I'm better than anybody else, because I'm just a poor sinner that was saved by grace, just like anybody else, and I'm just trying to do a little better, live a little closer, and give a little bit back to Him, because He paid a debt that I could never repay Him for. And I have a son of my own, and to think that I'd have to give him for somebody else is a very deep thought to think about. And God gave His Son for us, and so He loves us enough to correct us, and if we can listen and obey and go and do the things He asks us to do, without hesitation, without question, then the obedience is going to be counted to righteousness for us. And it says here that if you can do this, it shall hide a multitude of sins. Proverbs 10 and 12, hatred stirreth up strife, but love covereth all sins. So we have to have that love in us to be able to do that. And when it's easy to talk about when you're not in that situation, when you're not having to be the one that's forgiven, you're not having to be the one to have understanding, and it's a lot easier to tell somebody else they have to do that. But there's a lot of times I've spent a lot of time praying and saying, Lord, I can't forgive them. Do you know who they are, what they've done, and where they're at? And then, 3, 2, 1, spiritual check. God says, do you forget who I am? I'm God, your Father. I know everything. I know exactly who they are, where they are, and what they're doing. Did you forget that I knew who you were, where you were, and where I brought you from? And He's not doing it to throw it up to your face, but He's just saying, where would you be without me? And you're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes I forget about that, because, I don't really want to bring up what I used to do. And so I'm doing better now, so I'm a little bit better than somebody. No, you're not. God's no respecter of person. He loves the sinner that's out there in the world just as much as He does somebody that's being obedient to Him. Now, is there going to be a stronger relationship with somebody that's spending time with Him and is obedient and doing His will? Absolutely. But, sometimes, it's just me speaking, you get mad and you're like, oh, I cannot forgive this person. I cannot do this because they did this and this and this. And He's just like, well, just when you get done making your excuses, He goes, we'll come over here, we'll go to your room and we'll put you in timeout and we'll have a little talk, and you'll talk and you'll pray it out and He'll bring you that understanding, and it keeps coming back to me, and that I can't get away from it, and it's like, well, they did this, this, and this to me. And then you hear Jesus whisper, it's like, well, I came here and I did no wrong. I did no sin. I did nobody wrong. I did nothing to them. And they lied about me. They started rumors about me. They tried to get me put in prison. They made fun of me. They mocked me. They said that I was working for the devil. which in essence is that means that they said that his father was the devil, and that he was of the devil, and all the things he was doing was evil and pure and impure, and it was from the devil. And they tried to get him arrested with the lies and things that they did. They tried to find him and take his life before it was time. The people closest to him, when he took in the disciples and they were at the Last Supper, he washed their feet and he fed them food and drink, knowing that they were all going to abandon him in just a couple hours. That Peter swore that he would never leave him and he would fight to the death for him, and he was going to deny him 3 times. He knew that Thomas was going to doubt, even his other brothers and sisters, that he was alive until he had to see him. He knew Thomas was going to doubt him, and he knew Judas had already sold him out for filthy lucre, for money. The 50 pieces of silver, and he was sitting right there, and Jesus still looked at him, and he was still trying to pray for him, and he was still loving them, he still fed them, and he still gave them drink, he still washed their feet, knowing what they were all about to do, and what was about to happen to him. And so they spit in Jesus' face, they punched him, they beat him within an inch of his life before he ever went to the cross, and they nailed him to the cross. And a lot of people are like, what kept him on that cross? It was love. It wasn't the nails. If he didn't want them to take him, they never would have laid a finger on him. He had all the power in the universe at his hand. He could have had a thought, and them guards would have dropped down on their faces before him. They never could have touched him. But he gave his life up. He laid it down in love and mercy and grace. He laid his life down for us. And he did no wrong. And what did he say when he was on the cross? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. So now, here I am in my little corner like, okay, so I really don't have a leg to stand on here when I'm saying I can't forgive, or I can't move on, and I can't try to go touch that person because, the flesh will tell you, well, they're too far gone. They can't be saved. Don't waste your time. I remember hearing that too when I was still lost and the Spirit was trying to draw me. That voice was in my head screaming like, you went too far, you've done too much, you can't be saved, that promise isn't for you. Well, the Spirit spoke louder and pulled me out of that, when He saved me. And I didn't think there was any hope for me. So who am I to say, who can and can't be saved? That debate was settled 2,000 years ago when Jesus died. He said everybody. It says whosoever shall believe. So we don't need to do that. We need to pray that out of ourselves. And if we're going to do that, it's going to have to be in love. Because that is our example. Because that is what kept Jesus Christ on that cross. It was love. He hung there. Love was what kept him there. Love is what pulled him back up out of the grave and ascended him to heaven. It's his love for us. So before we close, I want to go back over, and we're going to go to 1 Corinthians. We're going to go to chapter 13. And I know in this verse, or these verses, it talks about charity. Well, charity can be flip-flopped with love. It's the same basic principle idea here in this. And as we're also reading this, you could fill in where it says charity. You could replace that with love. You can replace that with Jesus. You can replace that with God. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I don't have love, I don't have Jesus, I don't have God, I'm becoming a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. That means you're just making noise and there's not any benefit from it. It's just background noise. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains and have not charity, love, Jesus, God, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, love, Jesus, God, it profit me nothing. Charity suffereth long. Love, Jesus, God, suffers long and is kind. Charity, love, Jesus, God, envieth not. Charity, love, Jesus, God, vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. It's patient, it's kind, it waits. It is not envious. It doesn't seek itself first, but it gives of itself. Verse 5. Doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. So, you're not seeking out just what you want, but you're seeking for the better of those around you, the people that you do love. It seeks to help others, to love others, to pick them up. It's not easily provoked into wrath and anger, and it tries to put away all evil. There is no evil in love. It casts out evil, it casts out fear, it casts out doubt. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth. The truth, that's the Word, that's Jesus, that's God. Beareth all things, that doesn't mean everything except, but it says all things. Believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. It takes away our excuses there. But this and that doesn't matter. We still have to seek and try our best to follow through with this in all things. Charity, love, Jesus, God, never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. So when love comes, when Jesus comes, when God comes, all the partial things will all fade away because they're full and perfect and whole. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Spiritually speaking, there is that when I was young in Christ and growing, I was on the milk. I eventually had to get to the point to where I did the harder things. I put away the foolish things of this world. I put myself away. I put the fleshly things away, and I took on the spiritual things. I took on the meat, and I grew, and I matured, spiritually speaking. To do that, you have to do the hard things. That's forgiving those that don't even ask for forgiveness. That's for those that mock you. You still try to love them, and you reach out and you touch them. Those are people that are caught up in things that you were caught up in. In my life, I found I have the shortest, how my words go here. I have the shortest patience for people that usually were doing the things that I was doing. I don't know if it's where, I feel, like I said, a little pride comes up and you're like, well, I beat that, so you should do it yourself too. And then you get that check and there's like, I didn't beat anything that I was in. The sin that got laid away from me, God delivered me from. I didn't beat it. I didn't do anything but make a mess. God delivered me from it. So I don't need to take any pride in saying, well, I got out of that, you can too yourself. I need to help somebody. Like I said before, if God delivered you from something, then you know the way out. You need to show the others out. And that's going to be Jesus. And they're going to have to see it in you. And it's going to be hard. Especially when people are messing with your family, messing with your job, messing with the things that you have to do in your daily life. But you got to do it. Because that's what love is. That's what, that's our example. Jesus Christ's perfect example was in love and obedience. And that's what we got to do too. 12. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known, as also I am known. When the truth comes out, you're going to be known what's in your heart, what's in your soul. That's what's going to come out. When the rubber hits the road, when the trials come, the hard times come, whatever face you put on, whatever front you put on is going to fade away. What's in your soul and what's in your heart is going to come through. And you're going to be known as that. When death comes to call your name, however you were living, you may have fooled the preacher, you may have fooled your friends, you may have fooled yourself, but God knows your heart. And what's in your heart is going to be how you're going to be known and how you're going to be judged. And that's maybe harsh, it may be hard, but it's the truth. We're accountable to tell the truth, each and every one of us. 13. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. Again, love Jesus, God. So, it's a hard lesson. It's a hard fact to deal with at times, but, God never gave up on me. And, people will say, well, how do you know that they can be saved? Or how do you know I can be saved? You don't know where I've been. You don't know where I am. You don't know my heart. And I'm like, no, I don't have to. But I knew where I was. And I know where my heart was. And I know what I was doing. And I know that I felt like I had no hope until the Spirit came to me and drew me to Jesus Christ, who is all hope. And, we have to have patience and love and mercy. And we have to handle those, especially that, we know are lost and are fragile, carefully, And the truth stings and the truth hurts, but we're supposed to be salt and light. And, when you put salt in a wound, it hurts sometimes. So you have to take that in good measure and not pour it out in a big dose sometimes. Sometimes you have to give them a little salt in that wound, just enough to make them a little uncomfortable until they can handle a little more. God had to bring me along. I wasn't an overnight success story. He's still working on me. I'm almost 41 years old, and if I live to be 141, he'll still be working on me. And I'm thankful that he's patient and kind enough to do so. And he loves me enough to do that. And as long as I'm working with him, it'll work out. If I'm obedient, listening to him, and keeping my 2 cents thrown away and just taking his word for the whole truth and not trying to add any of me back in there, then it'll work out just fine. And so pray, seek his will, read his word, hear his word taught, hear his word preached, and pray and say, Lord, show me what it is you need me to do. And tell him, say, I will say yes to you. When you ask me to do something, I will, and mean it and do it, because he will put you out there. When you say, hey, I want to do this, use me for this, or show me what it is, and whatever gifts and talents he's given you, that wasn't just for you to keep under a bushel. You gotta let your light shine. And if you've not figured out what your gifts or talents are, ask him, he'll show you. And we all have them. He's got something in you. You have the ability to speak, maybe you have the ability to just, people want to talk to you, or it's easy for you to talk to other people, or maybe you're a musician, maybe you're a singer, maybe you're a doctor. Whatever it is, there's some gift in you. And, you have to stir that up and ask him to stir that up and to strengthen you in that and reveal what it is to you, and then get to work. And make sure that you got your soft gloves on when you're handling fragile people. And love them, the lost and the new Christians that are on the milk, the babies. We have to be easy with them, but that doesn't mean we don't tell them the truth. We just do it in love and mercy and grace. And that's what was on our heart this morning, where we're at. We'll close down with that. But just remember, we don't get to decide who gets to be saved and not saved. Jesus Christ decided that, and it's whosoever, and we have to go in love. And it's going to be hard to love us. And I think about that, myself. I'm sure that it's been hard for God to love me sometimes with the way I've acted, and me knowing to do better and not do it, and him have to take me out behind the woodshed and discipline me in love. And that's all my fault. That's not his. That's me. I take the blame for that. And I have no blame on him. He's been perfect and never failed me once. And when I failed him, he's had to correct me, and that's all me, not him. But he loves me. I love him, and I love you all. And I hope you love the Lord and you're seeking him and his will for you in your life.